Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to what's going to be another episode of The Verdict. I am Sprampray 1000. I'm going to talk today about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I am very late to this, but it is what it is. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a platformer where you play as Kirby as he runs through the Forgotten Land, which is this vast place of, I think, 6 different worlds. You know, you got your typical, like, greens area, you got an ice level, you have a desert level, and all that kind of stuff. Kirby has been sucked into here by some weird alien manifestation that showed up and took him away from planet Popstar. While here, he teams up with this really small little blue thing called Elfilin. And from there, Kirby sets off to find and rescue Waddledees and restore order and defeat the Beast Pack, which is basically a bunch of wolves that are running around trying to, just cause chaos and capture Waddledees and take them away from the Waddledy Village. It's a Kirby game. You're not going to get anything too complex or anything out of it. However, one of the big things about this game and one of the big positives I would say about it is that it has Waddledy Village, and Waddledy Village is basically like a hub. So you could go here. It combines a couple different things from like previous Kirby games. So for instance, there is a repository of all the copy abilities in the game, just sort of chilling around, just relaxing in the village. There's also a place where you could buy items and you could store an item in reserve. There's also a place you could rewatch earlier cutscenes, you could fight other battles. All sorts of things can happen in Waddledy Village, which is really cool. In my opinion, it's one of the best parts of the game. And moving beyond that, I would say that Waddledy Village itself is it's a good addition. It's something that I feel like Kirby games definitely needed to have for a while. The only thing that I could really think of that's kind of like it is in Squeak Squad, and I probably said this in the playthrough. There's an area I think that you unlock at the end of the game where you could run through and pick up like whatever power ups you want to have, and then you can like combine them and then use them later on. Whenever you're out and about. Now, this game is very straightforward. It's definitely a good game, especially by Kirby standards. But I guess the only real negatives that I would say about it is that you cannot store multiple power-ups, and I feel like there's not a lot of power-ups. And also, I guess lastly, it's very rare I list all the stuff out right away. Lastly, all the levels are basically you play through the whole game once, and then their way of like having extra bonus levels is to play through the whole levels again while trying to collect soul pieces of a character. In my opinion, like I understand why they do that. It makes sense sort of, but I'm not really like a fan of the whole like, oh, play through the level again. I feel like unlike Yoshi's Crafted World, where it kind of felt matched with the theme of the game being like a arts and crafts show, right? Like you're going through the level one way and then you play through the level in reverse, and they've made modifications to the level to play it in reverse. I feel like instead of that, this game this game, oh good lord, why am I stuffed up? That's so weird. I feel like this game just kind of makes you run through like a slightly harder version of the level, and like it's not completely awful, right? Like I'm not saying it's like the worst thing in the world, but what I will say is it's kind of like uninspired. Like I was kind of like, oh okay, so now we just have to replay the whole level. They basically make you replay the entire level in like one take. I'm sorry, the entire world in like one take. It's not like super hard or anything, but it's just kind of like, I already did this, like you want to see new stuff. At least with like Crafted World, which is like the last platformer I can think of that I played on the Switch, like you're kind of playing the level in reverse a little bit. So it's different, right? It's like you're playing it from the finish line, and you're also it also doubles as a time attack. So you're playing the level in reverse. You're trying to find the little poochies, and you're also trying to beat your high score, right? So like it's doing 3 different things at once, whereas this is just like go back through and now there's another different type of scavenger hunt, and I'm just not a fan of that. Like I feel like that could have been maybe a little bit better. The combat of this game is very simple, or I mean, not combat, I would just say gameplay. I feel like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, or I feel like in this game it's very straightforward. You have your ability to fly, Now in this game, it's not unlimited like the 2D games, so yeah, you can only fly for so long until Kirby starts to lose altitude. Other than that, you know, Kirby's major thing is that he could pick up power-ups, he could spit things out to hurt enemies. Um, and that's sort of where the second thing I said comes into play, is that I just feel like there's not enough copy abilities. Now, in the game, there's a lot of them, right? Like, there's, like, sword, flame, ice, hammer, bomb, trying to think what else. Sword. Oh, yeah, I said sword. Cutter. Cutter's another one. And then there's two that are just kind of there. There's sleep and there's crash, which are in other games as well. My thing that I really wish is that they kept the ability to swap between them on from Squeak Squad. In this game, if you want to get rid of a power up, you have to basically let it expire by, you know, dropping it. Like, there's a button you can press to just drop it and revert Kirby to normal, and then afterwards nothing, and then you just go pick up another power up and then move on. I kind of like that in Squeak Squad you could change your power up, and then it would also store whatever you just swapped off of. That would be like one thing I think that would be pretty cool, right? So that way you don't have to do as much backtracking or whatever. Other than that, I feel like the game could maybe make use of more buttons for more things. So for instance, like, you might perform a different attack while running than if you were to just stand still. Because this game is meant to be played on one Joy-Con, they have combined those two buttons together, which I kind of wish that they did not. And therefore, those buttons do the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, so, like, instead of putting, you know, standing attack on Y and then moving attack on X, or, like, you know, attack 1, attack 2, whatever, everything is on one button. Everything's on Y, and that's it. You can't change it. So, like, it depends on whether or not you're moving. That led to some frustration with some power-ups, right? Like, the bomb, for instance, is completely different depending if you're moving or not. So, like, if you're moving, you could roll the bomb along the ground, but if you're not moving, you could aim and throw it. And so instead, I just wish it was on two different buttons, you know, like, oh, if you want to roll the bomb while stationary, you just press X or something, and then if you want to throw the bomb or whatever, it's Y. You don't have to, like, stop, hold Y, and then do it, right? Because I found that sometimes it gets a little bit bungled up in the mess. I feel like Kirby definitely could use some of that, like, more advanced and, like, thought out combat. I think it would actually really benefit the game. Another thing to note, two big things I'd set this game apart from other Kirby games is, one, the inclusion of the ability to upgrade power-ups. So, for instance, the ice, basically every power-up in this game levels up 2 times. So, for instance, you could have, like, the ice power-up, where you just shoot basic ice. Then there's like ice level 2, and then there's like the final level, which is like you spawn snowmen that you could push, you know, for extra projectiles and stuff. You could get the sword, and then you could upgrade to be a bigger sword, and then you could upgrade again to the level 3, and then, like, lastly, like, for instance, the fire power up. Well, level 1 just lets you spit, you know, like a mist of fire at enemies, right? Like a little flame. Whereas level 2 will actually have projectiles and a bigger flame. And then finally, level 3 lets you, like, continuously, like, almost sort of fly. Like it's like a dragon power up, and your fire breath will tick up. And if something's on fire long enough, it'll actually stay on fire afterwards. I found that was a big boon throughout the game. It was like a lot of these power-ups, it was worth hunting out the scrolls that are hidden in each level and the parts to upgrade it. Now, there's also challenge rooms, which I really liked in this game, where you're given a certain power-up and expected to clear a challenge, either race to the end, collect a certain amount of items, you'll need to kill some enemies on the way, and stuff like that. There's definitely, like, a good variety there in terms of, like, all the different ones. Some of them require higher level power-ups. It serves as both a tutorial and also a challenge, which is kind of interesting and obviously always a good thing. And, lastly, it's the thing that they advertised about this game. I don't think it was that big of a deal. It was okay. Mouthful Mode is basically where, even with a power-up, you're able to suck in something and take on, like, its properties. So, for instance, you can find a car, and you can walk up and suck it in, and Kirby will now be, like, on top of the car, basically, like a tarp, and you could drive around and control the car. Like, there's also, like, orbs that you could suck onto, and then if you wiggle the stick, you'll, like, open them. They're like big capsules. There's like lockers that you could pull down if you suck onto them. There's staircases you could move that could help you get to higher heights, because you can't just vertically go high in this game. Like, you could jump so high and then you can only float to that height. Like, it's not like 2D Kirby's where you could just jump and then just constantly puff, 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 puff and just hit the top of the screen. You can't do that in this one. You know, there's all sorts of things that you could use Mouthful Mode for. Like, some of the puzzles are cool, right? There's like a gliding puzzle that you could get if you suck in an arch in some levels. You know, there's like a roller coaster sections that you could have. It's okay. Like, I'm like, it's not like it's bad, but it, you know, it doesn't really revolutionize anything. It's just a way to have like cool segments in a level. So like, you could be on a boat and then like use like a ring to like make it so like you could spit out air and push the boat. It's like, it's okay stuff. It's not anything to die for, but I think it was a good addition to the game in that sense, because it definitely like contributed to having like some cool fun segments. So it's okay, right? Like, I don't have any like negatives about it, but also it didn't really change too much about it. So yeah, I guess that's what I would really say about that. But the upgrading of abilities, I think, is always a plus. You can't merge abilities like you could in Squeak Squad, but this is still pretty good. Right, like, it gives a reason to replay levels. There's a guy in the square who will tell you if you've missed any of them, and like any of the scrolls needed to upgrade them. Some are given to you just for beating the game, you know, as you complete it, and some are given to you like for finding them in stages and stuff like that. And I'm glad that there's in-game help to actually tell you, oh, I think you missed this in this level, in the first half of this level. You know what I mean? Now, as I take a drink here, hold on, sorry. Now, it's not like the game gives you like a progress meter through levels, but I mean, it's still very helpful to be able to say, like, yeah, this is how you get through the level. This is where it is. You know, you don't have to look it up online, which I think is something that should be more standardized, as games have it in them. Obviously, this is not like a super hardcore game like Metroid or something, right? So they just kind of tell you, just, yeah, it's over here. You know, I'm okay with that. But I mean, yeah, besides that, there's not really anything terrible about this game, and there's definitely nothing really terrible about it. I don't want to say it's just a good platformer, right? Because I feel like boiling it down to a good platformer is a little bit reductionist, a lot of bit reductionist, and like kind of, you know, skipping over the fact that it's a pretty good basic platformer, especially if you have a younger audience of people who might not have played a Kirby game before. It's definitely a good, easy place to jump in. It has some challenges, right, in the later levels. It has some quirks. It has some difficulty. So it's while I wouldn't put it on the same level as, obviously, like Mario Odyssey, maybe, or definitely Breath of the Wild, I would say, like, it's kind of, like, adjacent to Crafted World in that sense. And even though I liked Crafted World a bit more, I will at least say that Crafted World, well, there wasn't anything wrong with Crafted World, but I would say, like, this game, I wish there was maybe more. I feel like maybe having a third set of worlds and a second set that wasn't exactly identical would have been cool. For me, the golden standard was always Squeak Squad, even if it's a little bit of a weird game to play now. I still always like Squeak Squad, and I pretty much always will. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that straightforward, and I don't really know what else to say. So what would I give Kirby? What would I give Kirby in the Forgotten Land? Well, I mean, like, I had to think about it. I said to myself, like, well, there's not really much, like, you know, that blew me completely away or really surprised me. I just think it's a really solid entry in a franchise. It's definitely one of the better ones, and, you know, a lot of games have been having that on the Switch. So I would give Kirby and the Forgotten Land an 89 out of 100. I think it does a lot of good things. I think adding a couple, like another set of levels, or at least not having the second set just be the original levels over again, would have been really good. I think that would have added a lot more replayability to it. It would have definitely made the game more refreshing. It would have been interesting. You know, you could have remixed versions of levels, but I feel like if it was more stuff, then it would have been a little bit different. It would have been a little better. I mean, like, when did Crafted World even come out? I actually have no idea when that came out, but I feel like it was like 2018, I want to say, right? Let me look. 2019. It was early 2019. Yeah, I feel like if they had maybe mixed that up just a little bit, like, then it would have been a little better, in my opinion. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid game. I think it's a really good game, and I think you should absolutely give it a look if you're looking for something to play on the Switch. It's got a lot of fun stuff about it. And so with that, I am SpringPro1000. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you next time on The Verdict, or on a video or a stream or something. So peace.